Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So for those who follow me, you may know that I'm traveling at the moment. I'm in Bali. I've got about 10 days left and then I'm heading home. But for those who haven't watched my videos before, I've been doing a little experiment with my sister. She's vegan, but she'd also like to go ketogenic. So I've popped her on the diet and just kind of given her a few tips and let her go. And she's done her own research and she's found some amazing things. She's the transformation is already insane. And I thought that I would and she sent me through a couple of clips, just her talking about her challenges, some tips, recipes, and yeah, just an update on how she's going, how she's feeling. So I'll play those for you.
Okay, so for an overall update on how it's going, as you would know, I got into ketosis really early on, say, the second day, and I think that's just because having a plant-based diet, it was really naturally high in carbs. It was just a shock to my system when I cut that out completely. In terms of food, I'm still tracking everything in Chronometer because I've got to the point where I'm keen to experiment and try a few new things. As we said at the beginning, I set out on a super simple food regime where it was typically pretty well the same foods every day. I am back at work and it's been absolutely fine. Now that I'm a little bit more experienced, I just don't need to spend so much time planning and preparing meals. During the week, I can kind of just put together lunches and dinners, which I know are pretty safe. So for those of you wondering, in terms of my macro profile, my calories are 1760 per day, and of that it's 22 grams of carbs, 42 grams of protein and 160 grams of fat, and I'm not feeling hungry. So highlights include weight loss. I've lost about 6 kilos, I think. I may have lost a little bit more than that. My weight loss has slowed down considerably since the beginning, which is absolutely fine, but I have a little bit more that I want to get out of this little experiment. And something which I don't know if we've mentioned already is that I'm actually getting married in April, so naturally I would like to be fit and fabulous for that. Another highlight has definitely been appetite suppression, which has been a bit of a relief really. As somebody that's prone to binging, I was pretty worried about starting such a restrictive diet just because my experience when doing any other strict diet has just been a constant battle of the hunger. I've always had to use my mental desire to lose weight to battle crippling hunger. So that's been really awesome. And it means that I'm able to make more considered choices as far as my meals go. And I don't mean that in a keto sense, because that's not difficult. I can just plug the numbers in and work out what I can do within the range of the macros that I've got left for the day. But I mean in terms of nutrients, so I can sort of look at my Chronometer and see what I'm lacking for the day and build a meal around, say, iron or potassium or any other nutrient that I'm lacking. Another positive that I've discovered, which is something that I was worried about at first, is the ability to adapt existing recipes. I was a bit concerned that I was signing myself up to a life of smoothies and salads. I think I said this at the beginning, that I enjoy eating seasonally and, eating hot foods in winter and happy with salads and smoothies in summer, but I've managed to adapt a couple of curry recipes. Challenges, there have been a few. So as you may have known, I suffered from the self-diagnosed keto flu at the beginning for about 5 days, which was really unpleasant. And the difference when I kind of woke up on the 6th day was just incredible. I just felt like myself again. It was such a relief. The thing that I'm finding is to meet my macros, particularly fat. Those foods don't have any iron in them. The best way to do that seems to be with oils and things, and whilst that's fine, I can have the oils, that's no problem. It's not difficult. There's no nutrients in those with foods that aren't nutritionally dense. So whilst avocados and things like that are great, if Chronometer is accurate, they're just nowhere near enough in terms of iron and calcium for me. I'm smashing the greens, kale, spinach. I'm optimistic that I can eat my way out of it. So I've been doing a little bit of research and I've picked up a few things that I had no idea. So for example, to get the most iron out of spinach, you need to cook it. I didn't know that. This whole time I've been having spinach in everything, in smoothies, salads, I mix it into hot food, absolutely everything. Like I eat so much spinach, I could be a spinach. So I was really confused about why I wasn't higher in iron, but yeah, you've got to cook it. I'm doing that. I also discovered that for best absorption, you've got to have it with vitamin C. So that's things like broccoli, hot red chilies. So I've been doing that. I went out last night to Sydney's wankiest grocer and spent an eye-watering amount on organic veggies, which I think will help because the veggies that we get in our supermarkets, from my brief research and a few programs on TV, I understand that they're picked well before they're ripe. They sit in a cool room for a year and then they're sprayed with something to make them, go red or go orange or whatever colour they're supposed to be. So main markets in Sydney around my area, like Bondi and a couple in the inner west, they're still really expensive. So I need to do some research into how to buy organic in a way that's financially sustainable, because I can't be spending $70 on 4 days worth of greens. That's not okay. Doing a bit of research into how foods are best absorbed and the nutrients in them are best absorbed. So I understand that almonds are high in calcium, but also my brief research suggests that they actually need to be, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, activated, which basically just means that they've been soaked in water for 24 hours and then dried, just because then your body is more easily able to absorb what's inside of them rather than battling through that thick husk. Yeah, doing your research in terms of not just what foods to eat, but how best to prepare them, I think is essential if you're concerned about getting the most out of things nutritionally. Like I said, I'm optimistic that I can eat my way out of this, but if I do go to the doctor in 10 days and it turns out that I can't, I think that might be it for this diet for me. I believe that you can get absolutely all of your nutrients from plant-based sources. I don't think you need to eat meat to do that, but it's the plant-based sources that I've had to cut out on this diet that I think have led to these issues, particularly with iron. I don't believe in living a lifestyle where you can only be healthy through supplementing. I'm happy to supplement with B12 on a plant-based diet just because, I don't know, that's a fact of life. I've just gotten over it, but I know that on a vegan diet I can get absolutely everything else from whole foods, and if I can't do that on the vegan keto combination, then the keto part just has to go. And in the meantime, I've just got a few tips that I've learnt along the way that you've probably already heard from Ruth, but I'll give my 2 cents worth anyway. So the first one is that I've cut protein powder out of everything. I'd just rather get my protein from a whole foods source, and I just found that if I was having a smoothie for lunch with protein powder in it, I was really restricted for dinner because it was over 50% of my protein for the day, and I would just rather get it from a whole food source like tempeh or tofu, mushrooms. So the protein powder had to go. To be honest, my smoothies are less delicious without it. I've tried to replicate the flavors that the protein powder was giving me. So I've added peanut butter and I've tried cacao. I've found coconut milk to be a really good little sweetener in a smoothie, but another tip is just, if you ate this way before, which I did, continue to focus on whole foods. There's no need to eat a whole bunch of processed food just because you started the keto diet. I got really excited and I bought vegan feta and vegan cream cheese dip and things like that at the beginning, and to be honest, I barely touched them since. They go in a salad every so often, but they weren't part of my diet before and they're still not really. I just don't really like eating processed foods. I also try not to eat processed foods that are really high in sodium, like olives. I know adding pink Himalayan sea salt to meals is good for your electrolytes and stuff, but I am a bit suspicious about processed foods that are high in sodium. So I try to keep olives to a minimum, also tamari to a minimum. So yeah, my focus on whole foods hasn't changed at all. I'm not eating too much cheese. I'm not eating, what else is processed? I don't know. Anyway, I'm not eating too much cheese. I'm eating a little bit more tofu and tempeh than I would have before because those are processed foods. But in saying that, I really, really need the iron, and I'm not having my daily soy cappuccino anymore. So I figure it's okay. This isn't necessarily a vegan tip, but just applies to specialty foods in general, like MCT oil and hemp hearts, spirulina powder, things like that. Buy them online. Don't buy them in health food shops. They're really expensive. I've used iHerb for over a year now, and it's awesome. They ship to Australia for free if you order a certain amount worth of stuff. So yeah, I would highly recommend. You'll save so much money. So I'd recommend doing that. Another one that I know Ruth talked about before, and I think she's done a whole video on it in that supermarket video, but compare your labels with things like coconut milk, tahini, cacao, tofu, tempeh. You can pick up 2 different brands of these products, and one's high in carbs and one's low in carbs. So a couple of things that I noticed in particular were nutritional yeast. I had a brand that was really high in carbs, and then I just bought one that was much lower in carbs. Don't write products off because they look too high on their face. Compare brands. You can find one with low carbs that will work for you. And finally, if you are looking to experiment with different foods, don't just copy recipes off the internet just because they're called keto recipes or low carb recipes. Different recipes are tailored for people with different macros, and what I've noticed from having a little look around on YouTube, listening to a couple of podcasts and stuff, a lot of people set their macros way higher than I do. Some people have up to 60 grams of carbs a day, and I'm only on 22. So the recipes that they're publishing would smash my macros out of the park. So just be careful. Plug all the individual ingredients into your chronometer or whatever app you use and calculate the macros for yourself. Yeah, just because it's called a keto recipe, don't take their word for it.